Is my cap better than my snack? Or is my snack better than my cap? Well, it depends whether you're eating it or you're wearing it.
Relativism. It's all about perspective.
Some might say you can eat a cap, some might say no, but both are not wrong, since what's right depends on your personal perspective. That's relativism for you.
Relativism. It's all about perspective.
So, what's relativism? It's a philosophical concept that says about truth, morality, or reality. It depends on who you are, where you are, and when you are. Like,
Yes, there.
is that makeup?
Oh, yeah?
Is that even loud?
No.
你好像 come to at least behave like 潇洒到
Yeah, it's really awkward. She should be ashamed of this.
Whatever.
Why is she wearing that thing?
Just imagine this. A girl is doing her makeup in a classroom and some people start to watch and talk about her. How do we make sense of these situations? Let's explore it through the lens of relativism, a perspective that encourages us to understand actions based on cultural and social context rather than universal judgments. So through the lens of relativism, we can understand this situation by considering the cultural, ethical, and social norms that shape the behavior of everyone involved. From a cultural perspective, makeup might be seen as a form of self-expression or confidence in some societies, where public grooming is normalized and even celebrated. However, in more traditional and academically strict settings, such actions could be viewed as distracting and inappropriate, highlighting a clash of cultural norms. So relativism encourages us to view both perspectives without imposing external judgment. Ethically, the reaction of the passerby raised questions about respect and privacy. In some societies, stopping to comment on someone's personal action might be seen as intrusive and disrespectful, while in others it could be interpreted as harmless curiosity or even supportive engagement. So relativism also reminds us to evaluate this interaction based on the social standards of the people involved. So additionally, this scenario reflects broader societal norms around gender and beauty. Makeup is often tied to traditional standards of femininity, and a girl's action may challenge expectations of where and when such practices are deemed appropriate. So meanwhile, the comments from the passerby could reveal societal attitudes toward appearance, ranging from admiration to subtle judgment. So relativism actually also highlights the importance of understanding these dynamics in their perspective, specific social and cultural context, fostering empathy and avoiding universalized assumption. So by viewing this scenario through a relativist lens, we gain a nuanced understanding of the interplay between individuals, actions, cultural norms, and societal expectations. So finally, makeup often reflects societal beauty standards tied to gender. The girl's action might challenge traditional norms about where makeup is appropriate, while the reaction could highlight societal attitudes toward the appearance and behavior. So this is my explanation throughout the scenario that we shown before.
Yeah, but I think now we have 4 places.
you can separate it somewhere else. So we can walk white together.
I think we don't have to sit here. Like, this picture of us girls is fine. Okay, let's go.
In certain cultural or social contexts, men and women are strictly separated. even in everyday scenarios such as public places, schools, or social gatherings, where boys and girls may be unwilling or forbidden to sit together. This behavior often stems from religious, traditional, or cultural norms, aimed at maintaining moral order or defining gender roles. From the perspective of relativism, such phenomena need to be understood within their cultural context rather than criticized using external standards. Cultural relativism posits that the norms and values of a society are shaped by its history, religion, and social conditions. In some cultures, the separation of men and women might be seen as a way to show respect and protect women or to maintain social morality. In this context, this practice holds intrinsic legitimacy and meaning for people within that culture. Relativism advocates that instead of judging such behavior through external value system, we should attempt to understand the cultural logic and social significance behind it. From the perspective of moral relativism, however, this practice can also be contentious. Some might view the unwillingness of men and women to sit together as a form of gender discrimination restricting women's freedom and equality. Others might argue that it is a form of respect for gender differences and aligned with their cultural values. Moral relativism highlights that different cultures and individuals may define equality or discrimination differently, making it impossible to evaluate this behavior using a universal standard. The relativist perspective reminds us that judgment about such phenomena are neither purely right nor wrong, but depend on the cultural context and value system. While respecting cultural diversity, it is important to recognize the potential impact of such practices on individual freedom and gender equality. In cases where this phenomenon causes controversy in a globalized or multicultural society, a framework that balances cultural traditions with universal values may be needed to ensure gender equality while understanding cultural differences.
So that's that lah. That's the end of that part. But actually, Jonas, I've been thinking I have something to say to you.
So I have something to say.
Can I go first?
Sure.
I think we need to break up.
Why?
Because my parents don't approve of this, and for my country, the culture is that my parents said arranged marriage, and then I have a choice but to listen to them.
And then what's next for me?
I think in the end works, and I hope you respect my parents' decision. But I think you can still do it.
Sure.
I'm really sorry for everything.
So, for the introduction to early marriage, to begin with, early marriage, in which minors marry before the legal minimum age for marriage, is a phenomenon that exists globally, especially in some African and South Asian countries, such as Niger, Bangladesh, Ethiopia, and Chad. According to statistics, more than 3/4 of women in Niger are married before the age of 18. While in Bangladesh, the proportion is close to 15%. The formation of these phenomena is usually influenced by a variety of factors, many including cultural, economic, and social pressure. First is cultural factors. In many places, early marriage is seen as a cultural practice deeply rooted in tradition. It is often closely linked to family honor, religious beliefs, and society expectations. For example, in some regions, the early marriage of girls after puberty is considered a necessary means of protecting their chastity and family reputation. In addition, early marriage may also be seen as an important way to pass on traditional values. In the cultural context, any attempt to prohibit early marriage is often seen as a challenge to tradition and society stability. Next is economic factors. Economic poverty is one of the important factors driving early marriage in many poor areas. Where family resources are limited, parents may consider early marriage of their daughter as a way to reduce the burden on the family. Through early marriage, the girl's family receives some compensation through dowry or other forms of economy. We are also reducing the cost of raising the girl for some economically disadvantaged families. Early marriage is even seen as an economic strategy. The last is social impact. The phenomenon of early marriage has far-reaching negative consequences for individuals, families, and societies. First of all, early marriage deprives adolescent girls of access education, which directly affects their future development potential. In addition, early pregnancies due to early marriage pose a serious threat to girls' health, such as maternal complications and high neonatal mortality. In addition, early marriage can trap girls in a vicious circle of poverty and domestic violence, making them unable to support themselves of their poor material conditions. Last but not least is legal and social response. Around the world, more and more countries are beginning to recognize the danger of early marriage and take legal measures to regulate. For example, Indian law explicitly prohibits the marriage of girls under the age of 18 and boys under the age of 21. In recent years, the Indian government has also tried to curb early marriage by strengthening law enforcement and community education. However, the implementation of the laws has not been smooth sailing, and in some remote and conservation rural areas, these laws are seen as an encroachment on traditional customs and are strongly received.
Bro, why you just can't finish your job? Man?
I already finished my job.
No, you didn't. It's your fault, okay? You should be shamed for this.
Why?
You
can't scold him because you don't have the right to scold others.
Hey, who are you? You also don't have right to scold me, right? I also have my own human rights.
They're fine.
Okay, so from the perspective of relativism, the behaviors and views in this scenario can be regarded as the embodiment of different value systems and positions. So we know that relativism argues that the behavior and judgment of different individuals or groups are based on their respective cultures, experience, or beliefs, and there is no absolutely correct or universal applicable standard. So let's focus on the scenarios. First of all, from the perspective of the two quarreling boys, they may just think that this is a way to express their emotion or defend their views, and may even regard this quarrel as a normal exercise of power. So in their value system, maybe quarrels are not necessarily wrong, but a means of self-expression or resolving difference. However, secondly, from the girl's point of view, she took the initiative to intervene and accuse boys of quarreling, which may be based on her concept of maintaining public order or out of concern about adverse consequences of the conflicts. So in her value system, maybe stopping quarrels is the right behavior or even be a responsibility for her. However, when the boy asked the girl, "What right do you have?" he obviously defends his freedom to choose to quarrel based on his own values and refused to admit that the girl's accusation is justified. This reflects that the value conflict between the two boys pay attention to individual freedom, while the girls emphasize social norms or harmony. So, from the perspective of relativism, we can simply judge who is right and who is wrong, because the behavior and reactions of boys and girls are driven by their respective values. But for the girls and boys themselves, they may just think that the other part offended me. So for people like them who adhere to their own moral code, maybe it's just difficult for them to get along well with people who are different from them.
Choose already.
and he still don't reply me. So I don't know what he's thinking actually. But then, the Indonesian, right? You can smoke. Yeah, I thought Indonesians can also smoke. Now it's already. Oh, okay. Do you want? Thank you, I can smoke.
Thus, with this part, it shows the difference of relativism in different cultures as well as the change according to time. In this case, we are proving that cultural relativism has engraved itself in contemporary society, aka the postmodern world, where relativism has become a defined fact. Now, with this example, it is about Indonesian women who are allowed to smoke in the modern times. Back in the days, this was considered as taboo. This is because in Indonesia, the men are perceived as dominant, whereas the women are more so as nurturing and caring. So when women smoke, it perceived as something which is quite masculine, and it wasn't in par with their image of being caring and nurturing. Therefore, this thing, the act of smoking, particularly for Indonesian women, was considered as taboo. Now, with cultural relativism, it shows the fact that there is not one absolute truth. In this case, with it being engraved in modern society, it also shows the difference and transformation as time passes. Back then, Indonesian women were not allowed to smoke. However, these days, in some areas, Indonesian women are increasingly being able to do whatever they want, and they are allowed to smoke. There are still small parts that still consider this as taboo, and there can also be some Indonesian women who feel like this smoking is taboo to them. However, don't forget, relativism means accepting the differences between one culture and another, or one society and another, or even an individual with another. This means that there is, again, no absolute truth. What you think is right may be wrong to me, and what I think is right may be wrong to you. So in this case, there are two societies within the Indonesian women. One is the people who smoke, and one is the people who think that smoking is still taboo when it comes to Indonesian women. So in this case, cultural relativism takes place. The people who smoke should be accepting of those who think of it as taboo, and those who think of it as taboo should not place their expectations on the people who smoke. In this case, these two societies are not allowed and do not have the right to think of each other as doing the wrong thing, because this is the difference between these two societies' beliefs. In this case, there is no right or wrong, because it is not against the law. However, it is just based on one's perceptions on whether this thing is morally right or morally wrong. In a different example, let's use Islamic backgrounds as well as alcohol. All of us know that Islamic backgrounds are not allowed to go near alcohol. They are not allowed to consume alcohol because it is considered haram to them, which is taboo. Medicine does contain alcohol, not all, but some. So to them, is it taboo? Are they allowed to use alcohol-infused medicine or not? Again, these comes into two societies. One who think that it is fine to use alcohol when it comes to medicine because it is not because you feel like you want to have it, but more so because you want to heal a sickness or an illness to yourself. And if taken in moderation, in small quantities, it is considered okay to them. And the second society thinks that it is absolutely taboo to get in contact with alcohol. Even on life-threatening situations, these societies do not want to consume alcohol in order to cure any sort of diseases or sicknesses. There is no right or wrong in this situation. Neither is there any right or wrong in the Indonesian women smoking situation. It all comes down to being accepting and tolerate whatever behaviors the others do. Because again, you have no right to say what is correct and what is wrong. This is how cultural relativism takes place in modern society.
So, relativism reminds us that different people, different cultures, or different experiences can see something quite differently. It can encourage tolerance and open-mindedness, but if taken too far, it can lead to moral ambiguity where actions like dishonesty or injustice are excused because it's right for them. That's relativism.
Relativism. It's all about perspective.